let's rise and salute the flag and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of our veterans, servicemen and women, and those who have given the ultimate sacrifice. I will, Councillor Colin Hayes had a memorial. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to request a moment of silence for James William O'Brien. I did not know Jim, but I was asked by a community member, Amy Friedman, who did know him, to have a moment of silence for his lifelong activity. He's a lifelong community member. She mentioned how he quickly became her friend when they moved in, gave her advice on, and care on gardening. Jim was 85 years old, a lifelong resident and a local proprietor of O'Brien's Florist and Greenhouse establishment in 1926. It was established by his great-grandparents, Catherine and William O'Brien, and he was survived by his daughters, Marilyn Knowlton and Brenda O'Brien and Kathleen O'Brien, and his longtime companion, Elaine Gadden. And I am told that Brenda and her father worked in the shop every day together, so Malden has lost a great man with a fourth generational local business. So just wanted to say, take a moment.
Clerk will call the roll.
Councillor Colon Hayes.
Here.
Councillor Condon. Here. Councillor Crowe. Here. Councillor Linehan. Here. Councillor McDonald. Here. Councillor O'Malley. Here. Councillor Sika. Councillor Simonelli. Councillor Spatafora. Here. Councillor Taylor. Here. Council President Winslow.
Here. Under the provisions of the open meeting law, for those of you in attendance, please be informed that Urban Media Arts will be recording this evening's meeting. And so just be aware there will be audio and video recordings of this meeting. First order of business, clerk.
The council will host an appearance by Dr. Timothy Sippel, newly appointed Superintendent of Schools, effective July 1st, 2024.
Dr. Sippel, thank you. So, all right, thank you. So just your name and address for the record, thank you. And then.
Okay. I'm Timothy Sippel. I'm 1 Whitmore in the city of Cambridge.
Thank you. All right, go ahead.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, first of all, for the invitation to come and speak with you tonight. Timothy Sippel, and live a couple towns over, and I've been living in New England since 2017. Originally from Cincinnati, Ohio. Grew up in public schools in Cincinnati, and developed a real interest in the importance of public education because of the great things that I learned from public schools in Cincinnati, but also because I, along the way, realized that not everybody got in the schools what I was getting, and not everyone was getting the same opportunity that I was getting, and I determined I wanted to do something about that with my life. And after college, graduating from college, I went off to Southern California because they needed bilingual teachers. I speak Spanish, and I started my career in southern Los Angeles, and I was there in LA area for 26 years. Came to New England for graduate school in 2017. My wife, Army, is here tonight, and my older son, Elijah, who was going into 8th grade at the time, is here with us also. And he, after uprooting him from Southern California, said, "Dad, can we stay put for a minute?" And so he graduated from high school here, and now is at UMass Amherst. And our other son is also very, very, very New England, and this is home. I just wanted to share that what drew me to Malden is what very similar to what drew me to all the other communities where I've either taught or been a leader throughout my career. And I was a teacher in LA for 10 years. I was an administrator in Pasadena, which is up the freeway from LA, for 12 years. I was a high school principal there. I've been an executive director of schools in Worcester for the last 4 years. What's drawn me to all of the communities where I've worked has been that they're very diverse. And you all in Malden have a tremendously diverse school district, which is extremely, extremely exciting for me and exciting for all the people who get to be a part of it. Another thing that's been really important for me in all the places that I've worked is that the city leadership, the community, are very committed to public education and doing right by their kids. And I had a chance, as I was going through the interview process and preparing for the interview process, to watch a lot of school committee meetings. But I also watched a few city council meetings, and I know, and I've shared with a couple of folks, I watched a meeting that you had where the state delegation came and made a presentation about Chapter 70 and the Student Opportunity Act. I know that you're very, very attuned to the needs of the schools, and I know that from seeing the facilities in the city that you do a lot to make sure that kids get what they deserve. I've also had a chance to meet and know that there are a lot of educators and teachers and administrators who are working very hard every day to give students what they deserve. And I think another thing that I know about Malden, it's been very important to me from all the other cities where I've worked too, is that there are a lot of families who really rely on public education to give their kids the opportunity that they need to prepare for the future. Other places, there may be families, maybe a lot of families that have other irons in the fire or other opportunities to support their kids. But there are a lot of families for whom public education is the ticket that's really going to open up opportunities and open up doors for their students in the future. And I want to be a part of a community like that where I can have the greatest impact. I've been visiting with folks for the last 4 or 5 days over the last 2 weeks. I'll be here the next couple more days this week, and I start officially July 1st. And I'm just extremely honored for the opportunity to work and to lead the schools in the city and to work alongside the people to continue the good work that's happening and also address some of the challenges that still need to be addressed. And I look forward to, along with partnering with, obviously with the mayor and the school committee, but partnering with all of you as we figure things out together and do right by the kids of Malden. So thank you very much.
Thank you for coming out. We could have time for a quick question, but otherwise, we do have a personnel appointments committee coming up, but if anybody had a quick question or anything, otherwise, I'm certainly will be welcome. So yeah, so we'll maybe Councilor O'Malley had a quick question. So yeah, let me.
I had a little sidebar with the superintendent, and I just wanted to say it out there for the record. There's a lot of knowledge up here. Some of us who grew up here and are the product of Malden Public Schools. Some who maybe have not grown up here but have kids in the public schools. So please use this as a resource to understand the history and the current on the ground. We want to make sure that you succeed. As I'm sure you know, there have been a number of superintendents for the past couple of years. We want to make sure that you're here for the long haul and that you are successful and you feel supported.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I did mention to the superintendent just that, I think every much counselor has some touchstone in the schools. I mean, Counselor Seco's PTA, and a lot of the counselors are either graduates of our schools or have kids in the schools or both. So I think that's just something we, as a council, though we're not involved in the day-to-day, we definitely have a lot of interaction and support. And so we look forward to that continued opportunity and the opportunity to work with you and the whole Malden schools. I see school committee member Sharon Zyberg out here, so we continue to look forward to work with the schools. And but we look forward to the welcome and looking forward to working with you in the future. And welcome to Malden as well. We're looking to the family. We know it's a big commitment. Being a superintendent is you really become a member of the community. So we look forward to seeing you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Have a good evening.
Next order of business, let me just see.
Paper 275-24, be it ordained by the Malden City Council that the Code of the City of Malden, 12.12.190, subsection F1, a marijuana establishment be hereby amended by the following. Sponsors Chris Simonelli, Stephen Winslow.
So I'm going to recognize Councilor Simonelli, but then I'm also going to hand the gavel to Councilor O'Malley because I'm a co-sponsor of the paper and I'll speak to it as well. So Councilor Simonelli, did you want to say something? Then let me get your mic on there.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I just want to address this council tonight. I'm going to be as brief as possible. And, you know, I just want to apologize to you, Mr. President, because I know that I've asked you to put this paper forward. And, you know, I got to tell you, you know, when I first got back on the council and, you know, discussion was going back and forth about this cannabis thing, I was very, very aggravated of the fact that most of my ward was, you know, zoned out of the cannabis area. And, you know, sometimes, you know, I take it upon myself to, you know, go strong-headed, that, you know, no one's going to tell me or my neighborhood what we can and what we can't have. And I think most of you, my colleagues up here, know that I can be that way. And, you know, I learned a valuable lesson. And I did that without taking the consensus and the temperature of my neighborhood. And as I was roaming through my neighborhood for the last week or so, you know, I have a lot of people coming out to me and saying that they don't want a cannabis shop in the neighborhood. And I take full responsibility for being wrong here on pushing this paper forward. So, you know, like I said, you know, it's not about Chris Simonelli. Sometimes I have to be reminded of that. It's more about my constituency and the people of whom I represent. And I was a little hasty, and I moved this paper forward a little too fast. And, you know, I would ask of my colleagues, and Mr. President, I asked you to put this thing forward, and I know I did. And I'm sorry if it caused you any turmoil or any discomfort. That wasn't my intent. But after hearing from my constituency, I represent them. And like I said, you know, they don't want a cannabis shop in the neighborhood. So I would ask respectfully of my colleagues if I can withdraw this paper with dignity. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is that a motion?
It's a motion.
That's a motion to withdraw?
Yes.
So I will recognize Councilor Winslow for the first time.
Well, I'm a bit surprised, Councilor Simonelli. My motivations are somewhat different. My motivations comes a bit from concern. You know, we have heard, you know, we just voted on a budget where we're using $6.5 million of one-time money. We don't have a lot of options out there. You know, when I know earlier in the year when you came, I was kind of lukewarm on this, but we don't have a lot of opportunities as a council to try to grow revenue, and this is one I see. I know when I don't think you had the hearings in your neighborhood. I know in Ward 6, generally the proposal that went forward in Ward 6 was generally supported, not unanimously, but what projects are. But my concern is that we need to have some more options on the table. We have only had 2, you know, establishments open, and we can have more. So that's really, I am of the mind of putting this forward. I mean, one of the things is that it gives discretion to the council. Does not automatically mean that a neighborhood cannot come forward. You still have the public meetings and stuff like that. But I guess I think that giving some flexibility, I think also by having this paper forward, I know Planner Romero has also proposed some things related to primary use that we could go forward. So I'm inclined to proceed with this. So I would put myself out as a single sponsor there, and then I will let it go to the rest of the council as to whether to proceed. But I'm willing to lean into this. We need to figure out where we're coming up with $6.5 million, folks. So if you don't think you're going to have some tough votes, we're going to have a lot of things we're not going to duck over the few years. We're not going to be able to duck that $6.5 million next year. The other thing just about revenues is that it takes, even we're just starting, the cannabis shops have been open, a little over a year. We're just getting to book that revenue. We can't book revenue until a year after it's actually come in. We can only do it, we can't prospectively book revenue. So that's where I'm motivated from. And I think it is, we've seen this, what this has been I've been on the council for over 6 years now. We proposed and have, per state law, we need about 5. We're obligated to make opportunities for 5 shops to open. We've only had a couple open. We have one that's kind of stalled out because of some issues, and a couple of proposals that have been turned away because of inflexibility. So I'd be happy to work with Councilor Simonelli of that, but I do think that we have not been able to move forward on stuff. So, all right, that's where I come from. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Councilor Winslow. Councilor Sika for the first time.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley / Council President, Mr. Winslow. I am in disagreement with you. I realize that we keep hearing from everybody say that this is going to help with our finances, and I don't think people fully understand that we have 2 current pot shops open, one on Route 1 in Ward 8 and one in Ward 1 in Peg's Ward on Commercial Street. There is one set to open at 36 Charles Street. To this date, we've only brought in $324,000. And us using $6.5 million between ARPA funds and free cash, $324,000 is really small potatoes compared to what we need to start generating. And I understand that, everybody when we started talking about this in 2018, we thought we were going to be receiving millions a year for these cannabis shops. $324,000 between 2. The first quarter, we got $137,000. Then in December of 2023, the second quarter, it went down $34,000. We got $103,000. And then in June, this June, it went down another $20,000 to $83,000. So even though we have the ability to open 5 shops, they're actually going to wash each other out. So the more that come on, it's just going to get spread amongst them evenly. I thought Route 1 was going to be a moneymaker. It's the first spot off of the Tobin Bridge, and it's right on the Saugus line. And it's these shops, the market is saturated with these shops at this point. If you weren't one of the ones to open in the very beginning when they were few and far between, they're not making the money that they anticipated. I remember sitting in these cannabis meetings at the police station where some of them thought they were going to be making $1 million a month. They're not even near those numbers. So I think the time for us to keep saying that we're missing the boat and we're losing out on revenue from cannabis, it's gone. It has left the building. There's supposed to be a 3% community host agreement that the cities and towns are supposed to get, and the state is actually reviewing that, and I don't even think we're going to see the 3% from those community host agreements. So the money that we thought we were going to be making on this, the ship has sailed. We tried to change the zoning 2 years ago, and it's funny, we do it in the summer every time for some reason, right before summer recess. And it seems, I hear from people saying we're doing it because we're trying to hide it. It just so happens this when it comes up. I am seconding Councilor Simonelli's motion to withdraw this paper this evening because the public at home may not realize, but this is a zoning change. And in order to change our zoning, we need 8 votes up here in order to change zoning. And I don't think we still have 8 votes to change the zoning. So this is just gonna be a waste of time to send it to planning and ordinance over the summer months when all of us, I'm pretty sure, have planned vacations, including myself. I'm leaving the country for 2 weeks, probably when this would potentially be heard, and I would like to be here for any of these changes. I don't think that any of them require immediate assistance or guidance, and I've spoken to the city solicitor's office, who informs me that we currently have 2 active litigation cases because of variances that were not approved, and this will hurt those 2 cases. We should not be trying to change our zoning ordinances in the middle of 2 active litigation cases. That we try to help the city solicitor's office, with their workload, and we're gonna put more work on them if we pass this to go to ordinance and planning tonight. I think that's crazy. If you want to bring this back up in September, I think what we should be focusing on, that was very close to passing 2 years ago until the time ran out, was the primary use of the property. Currently, we have 53 parcels in the city that allow for cannabis shops to open. If we look at the primary use of the property and allow it in more places, that opens up a whole bunch more. I'm not sure that exact number, but I think it would open up many, because right now, you have to be the only entity in the building. So if a cannabis shop can't open in a strip mall or anything that has something attached to it. It has to be the only use of the building. So if maybe that's the paper, Councilor Simonelli. In September, we can go back and we can look at to see about, getting the low-hanging fruit of this and opening up that. Because again, I know I've said this on record plenty of times, I do not think that we have restrictive zoning in cannabis. We have a 75-foot residential buffer, and we have 53 parcels currently across the entire city. They're not zoned to a specific section like Melrose did to us on 99, where everyone thinks that's Malden. Saugus just recently passed cannabis, and they're only allowing them on Route 1. Mystic Ave in Medford approved cannabis, and it's only a small little corner of Mystic Ave. I think our zoning is the opposite of too restrictive. I think we did what we needed to do back in 18 to pass this, to allow it to kind of be scattered across the city. Quincy has a 1,500-foot buffer zone from a residential house. We're at 75 feet. That doesn't sound too, if Quincy's allowed to have a 1,500 square foot buffer zone and we're at 75, we're not too restrictive. And I just think that, the Board of Appeal, what they've been doing, in order to be approved a variance, there's 4 requirements that you need to meet. And if those people that have gone in front of the Board of Appeal have not been able to meet the burden of proof with those 4 requirements, that's not our responsibility to determine or to change, So I am in full support of withdrawing this paper this evening. I think, maybe we can bring up the others come September, but I think that at the moment, this particular, what the changes are in this with the zoning, I don't think we have the 4 votes. I think I have 4 votes not to have the zoning passed, because the same 4 people 2 years ago, I'm pretty sure, are still the same 4 people that are not looking to change it. So I think the primary use, I've already reached out to Amanda to discuss possibly, putting that back on the agenda, because that's where we should start with this, not changing, who's the special permit granting authority, who's going to allow variances and not have to go in front of the Board of Appeal. I think that that's all crazy at this point, especially where I spoke to the city solicitor's office, and our city solicitor told me that just the mere mention of these ordinance changes is going to hurt her in her fight for us in the litigation cases that we are currently facing. So I am in full support of withdrawing this paper this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Sika. Councilor Linehan.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley.
Well, I think if you bet me $1 million 2 years ago that Councilor Sika and I would be strategizing together on cannabis, I think I would have said that's the most unlikely thing to happen. But here we are. I am going to agree with a lot of what my colleague just said. I think while I am glad that Councilor Simonelli is thinking along these lines and trying to be proactive, I do think that this is something that we probably need to address as a city. I'm going to support his request to withdraw this out of respect to his conversations with his constituents and as the sponsor. I do think that as a city, you know, yeah, the revenue has not been as high as a lot of folks would have predicted. Money is still money, and I think that we are leaving some money on the table. My personal feeling is that probably the future in this industry is more tied to delivery, and I think, you know, I haven't run numbers on this, but I bet if you looked at the places that are delivering, an awful lot of that delivery is coming into Malden, but the money is actually staying with the community where the delivery originates. So that could be a potential, you know, area for us to look into. Are we leaving money on the table there? Is there something we can be proactive about? But I agree with my colleague. I think that the primary use, that paper was something that I had filed as part of a package a couple of years ago. Parts of it moved forward, parts of it we couldn't get consensus on. Really, we did just run out of time, and our city planner gave us some great suggestions for where to pick up that conversation if we did want to revisit it. I think that maybe this fall is a good time to revisit it. I'm aware, obviously, like we all are, that we have pending litigation, but I think that that fundamentally doesn't change the facts on the ground, which is that we've had applicant after applicant go through a process that, you know, we have volunteer members of our licensing committee and our Board of Appeal that are spending a lot of time vetting these applicants, and there just doesn't seem to be a path forward regardless of the litigation that's happening. And so for me, that's a flag that the council maybe needs to look at what we can do, what's under our purview. I do think the primary use is potentially a path forward, but I don't want to see us wait, I think, a lot longer than probably in the fall when we come back from our recess to tackle this. And as the ordinance chair, I would welcome that. I'd be happy to partner with folks on a paper or just welcome a paper into my committee, and we'll commit to moving it in a timely manner so that we can start to talk about this, which I think we need to do.
Thank you, Councilor Linehan. Councilor Crowe, for the first time.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I don't want to keep belaboring the point, but I do think if the goal of this paper is really to open up other properties, I do think the primary use, because as Councilor Sika mentioned, has to be the only primary use, and in multiple buildings, there's a primary use. And I think this paper really doesn't really address that quite as well across the city. It really seems to address the barriers for a specific or a couple specific businesses in specific areas. But I do think the primary use, I do think Council Linehan had a great point about like the delivery and other opportunities that we could be really looking at. The only primary use situation, we were at 98%, like over the goalpost, and then it was like, this is allowed with it, or that's not allowed with it, and we ran out of time. So I do think that, you know, we had a lot of great consensus really around a lot of that, and now we should be looking at that to open up across the city. So I'm in favor of withdrawing this paper and would be supportive of another one.
I have a point of order.
Councilor
So
Winslow.
with Councilor Simonelli withdrawing his co-sponsorship, this paper only has me right now as making the motion. So I don't know if anybody seconded this to go forward. So I think it just died. So Councilor Colan, so.
We need to take a vote on this motion
But, okay,
first.
but,
Then you
Right.
actually didn't make an official motion, but I hear you saying it now.
all right, so no one made a motion that, so yeah. no one-
Just to clarify, we have
Point of
Councilor,
order.
we have Councilor Simonelli's motion, seconded by Councilor Sika. Councilor Winslow, what's your motion?
So point of order, typically when a paper gets introduced, there has to be a second to even have it considered. So now, Councilor Simonelli, I'm the only sponsor, so no
Well,
one's.
Councilor
second
Simonelli
this.
made a motion to withdraw,
Okay.
seconded by Councilor Sika.
So I will, okay, I'll let you make your decision.
But did you have a motion?
I don't have a motion, I'm just saying, point of order, that there's no, if a paper comes before us and there's no one who seconds the motion moving forward on the paper just dies. I mean, that's the point of, is that the case? So yeah.
Your point of order is noted.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilor Winslow.
Great, that's all.
Councilor Spatafora for the first time.
Do you want to take the vote, or are we gonna wait?
I would, out of respect, well,
The vote could just stop my conversation. I don't want to waste anybody's time if,
Yeah, I just feel, I hear it. let's
Thanks,
withdraw.
Counsel, I appreciate it.
I'd be fine with just withdrawing.
I would like to get through, there are people have been waiting, and you're not the only person, so if
Do you want me, okay, I was just.
if you could,
I want to yield if we're gonna take a vote. If we're not, then I will speak.
and I would also like to speak at the end.
All right, that's
So-
fair.
So out of respect for everyone, I don't want to skip.
No,
the line.
listen, I appreciate, I think everybody, I don't want to be, I supported the primary use change. I think that was a good recommendation, like any ordinance, you know, there's opportunities to improve, right? No ordinance is perfect. I do disagree with a couple of those statements. I believe that you don't have to be somebody who reads a paper every day. The marijuana business in this country is maturing very fast. New Hampshire just passed it, and I think New Hampshire the best approach. They're gonna sell it in their state liquor stores, so they're gonna keep all the tax to keep their property taxes down. I think that's what we should have done. But it's a growing, it's a maturing industry. I don't believe Malden even could sustain 5. We haven't seen the impact. Do I think there is a little bit more we can get out of that apple? I do. Is it gonna back up $6.5 million? Absolutely not. I mean, I know the comment was made, we're leaving some money there. We absolutely are. We're also leaving money in creating more commercial space, building more restaurants, more bars, meals tax, which is almost double cannabis. Now, I know there's a lot more units, right? Build a hotel, get that tax, more home ownership. There's a lot of ways we can craft the tax base here to be more conducive to what we need in the future. Will that fill that void? Probably not. But my challenge here is, we've had 2 lawsuits. One was settled. One was already shut down by the court. There is another lawsuit before us right now. I think the basic common courtesy this council should do is afford our legal department to actually find out what the precedent is, to see if we've been told that our ordinance is so restrictive that we shouldn't go forward. We should not be changing an ordinance or making any changes to it with setbacks or anything like that. The court looks at it, makes the determination. Either we are too restrictive and we have to change it, or we're not, and that's our baseline to go forward. That's what we should be doing. The idea that we're doing this in the middle of a lawsuit is an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment for this community. I've been a counselor for a long time. The last 3 years of my life here, it's like Groundhog Day. It's marijuana and trash. That's what we spent our time on, right? We've had three establishments come through our ordinances, go through the process, no problems at all. In fact, 2 of those people have told me it was a great process, because the state's really the setback. That's where the setbacks really start. They've gotten better. 3 people have come in, they found property, they've opened up, 2 of them have opened a business. 1, it's up to them what's going on with that property. Nothing's been a challenge. There's 1 business that went to a location that was not determined to be suitable. Pre-existing, that owner knew that. They went to the Board of Appeals, they lost it. Now, the answer is, let's change the ordinance and insult the 3 businesses who came here and went the right way. 1 business has not got the license, so this is what this is about. That's my challenge. 3 businesses came here, went through the process, came before this council, and I voted 3 times to approve all 3 businesses. This is not anti-marijuana. In fact, I love the taxes. This is, you came to Malden, you picked up a location that was not legal for it, you went to the Board of Appeal, you lost, now you're asking us to change the rules. That's not how it works. That's like me buying a 2-family and asking to build a 4 and saying, hey, can you change the zoning because I want to build a 4? That's my challenge with this. We're embarrassing our legal department. We're spending viable time. Everybody up here knows next year is going to be a challenge with the financial budget. This isn't going to fill the void. And for us to spend another ounce before the state comes down and gives us the legal opinion is a waste of our time. I agree. September, let's look at the primary use. That can open up other things. I'm not supportive of spending any more time. We should be all working together to figure out more commercial space, more tax revenue, restaurants and bars, more home ownership to bring in that tax base. That's what we should be focusing our time and attention on. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Spatafora. Councilor Cologne Hayes for the first time.
Thank you. So I was so excited to see this on the agenda, and shocked now to see what is going on here. For a point of information, though, I think the 2 that are coming up that we're talking about our social equity. So I think it's 4%, not 3%. Not that it's a huge deal, but it is 4%. That is more money. And honestly, we are in a state of panic. This is all we've heard over and over and over. To leave any money on the table right now, I think that is something that we should not be doing, and we should be taking every opportunity with it. I agree about the primary use, but I also agree that we need to move forward for this. I'm really sad that you took this off the table. I understand you listen to your constituents, but I think that we should move forward. We have anything, like I said, that can help our finances that we should be looking at. And so I'm not in support of withdrawing this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Cologne Hayes. If I could, from the chair, I believe that everything that's kind of been said, and I agree with it, really everyone. And I think, and there are different opinions, but I can see them all. And I think that compromise is going to be the way forward. It's going to be the thing I continue to talk about. As Councilor Sika indicated, the paper that is presented tonight does not have the votes, and that's where compromise comes in. And so I do think that if the council could move forward on a primary use, that would be super helpful. I know I spoke with Councilor Sika about removing buffers for the medicinal. Right now, we have I think over 1,000, 1,500 foot buffers for medicinal, which is not great for the residents that would like that grade. And the other dynamic that I would like to look at is whether or not we could extend in a targeted manner that doesn't, violate any spot zoning, maybe looking to expand the overlay zone to other parts of the city. I think that that's a way that doesn't have such of a shoot from the hip, impact the entire city in ways that we don't know, but is more targeted to specific areas that would fit. Obviously, I think that placing these facilities on the entryways to other communities, similar to like what Melrose has done to us, I think does help kind of maximize the tax revenue for us. And then one thing on the saturation, as these businesses do become more saturated, the pricing is going to get better, which will allow more people to actually go there. And one of the challenges that you're seeing right now is that the street market is cheaper than buying in the legal market. And the only way that that gets corrected is saturation. And so it's a bit of a balancing act, but I do think there's ways to compromise. The only thing I would say is there a way that this paper could be amended here, referred for the primary use, the things that we're talking about, have a first public meeting in the summer, have that public hearing held over until September. Which we're allowed to do. If we wanted to, we could amend the paper now before we refer it to a hearing. And the only reason why I say that is just so everyone's aware, next week I will be proposing, not marijuana zoning amendments, but some other zoning amendments that I would like to get in the pipeline. But if the concern is the council and residents can't attend a hearing over the summer, the planning board absolutely can start the hearing, hold it over until September. But I do think it makes sense to get some things in the pipeline. I'm not twisting anyone's arms. That was just an idea. I do see two more lights. I'm going to go to Councilor McDonald for the first time, and then Councilor Sika.
I agree with my colleagues about the need to revisit aspects of our cannabis zoning, and both for the social equity reasons and for the fiscal impact reasons on the city. I just, it's become a rule of thumb for me that anytime anybody says cannabis at this table, it's 45 minutes. It's 45 minutes later. And we're going on 40 minutes right now on this particular paper. And I just recognize we've got some other folks here who are waiting for the Personnel and Appointments Committee. And I just wonder if we could continue this robust, rigorous, and important conversation in a different venue, like maybe in September. And so I would like to know if we're ready to vote.
So I'm going to take that as a moving the question. Councilor Sika for the second time.
Just really quickly, to go back on you. I have no problem with looking at, we did have the discussion about the overlay district. Just people that are aware at home, even when you have an overlay district, the first cannabis shop that CLEC put forward, if you remember, Councilor Spatafora, was 616 Broadway, and it was Mass Medicom. We've actually had 5 cannabis shops that have been approved through the CLEC. Only 2 are currently open. One is the third one is waiting. But, we had one withdrawal, and then the Mass Medicom, which was in the marijuana overlay district. So upper 99 on the Melrose line is considered the marijuana overlay district, where those particular parcels do not have to meet the buffer zone requirements. So there is no 75-foot residential buffer in this particular district. But the residents of Baird and Loomis, we filled the Linden School with residents who were against putting a pot shop at 616 Broadway. So Councilor Spatafora and myself, we could not go against what the residents wanted. They felt that they already had liquor stores, a nightclub, a bowling alley. They had, the pot shop down the street, whatever the name is called. Garden Remedies, thank you. I was thinking green something. Garden Remedies. So the marijuana overlay district is all great and it's fine, but it doesn't mean that you can just ignore the will of the people that live around that parcel of land. So I'm all for looking at other parts for that. I think that it's great. And I don't want to redo this paper. If you have zoning papers coming down the pipeline for joint planning and ordinance, I do too. I have Overlook Ridge that I need to get rezoned. That should be on the agenda in a couple of days. So we can't discuss cannabis with several other zoning issues that are more, those are more on a time crunch. Well, mine is anyway. I don't know what your zoning is, but my particular zoning for Overlook Ridge has a deadline, so I need to get it out there, and I don't. Planning board meetings are already long and dragged out meetings. I don't think we should have several things on it just to get them out of the way in the middle of the summer. So, thank you.
Understood, thank you. And then for the final time, Councilor Linehan.
Thank you. I want to hit a similar note to Councilor Sika. I think we do have other things that I know are more urgent, just again, as chair of ordinance, that we're going to be bumping up against some quorum issues as it is to make sure that we can actually make that joint meeting or a couple of them work over the summer. I would love to chat more with you about the zoning stuff that you have in the hopper. And also just to say that some of the state fees that somebody had referenced earlier, that doesn't sit in the zoning side of cannabis, that sits in the ordinance side, but we already know we're gonna have to take that up in the fall after the state budget. So my personal preference would be to move that as a package in September, since we already know that the ordinance side has to get opened up too. So that would be my feeling, and I think we should move the question.
Understood. And so on the motion to withdraw by Councilor Simonelli, seconded by Councilor Sika, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. That was 9-2. That succeeds, or it's been withdrawn.
And motion to adjourn by Councilor McDonald, seconded by Councilor O'Malley. All those in favor? Aye. Motion, meeting is adjourned. All right. And then we will start up personnel appointments right away. Sorry for the delay. What?